Chapter 94. Duo Huai laid before his colleague the scheme to overcome the army of Shu, saying, "The Kang tribes have paid tribute regularly since the days of the founder of Wei. Emperor Pai regarded them with favor. Now let us hold such points of vantage as we may, while we send secret emissaries to engage their help in exchange for kindly treatment. We may get the Kangs to attack Shu and engage their attention, while we gather a large army to smite them at another place. Thus attacking, how can we help gaining a great victory?" A messenger was sent forthwith bearing letters to the Kang tribespeople. The king of the western Kangs was named Chelijai. He had rendered yearly tribute since the days of Cao Cao. He had 2 ministers, one for civil and the other for military affairs, named, respectively, Prime Minister Yadan and Chief Leader Yu Jai. The letter was accompanied by presents of gold and pearls, and when the messenger arrived, he first sought Prime Minister Yadan, to whom he gave gifts and whose help he begged. Thus he gained an interview with the king, to whom he presented the letter and the gifts. The king accepted both and called his counselors to consider the letter. Yadan said, "We have had regular intercourse with the Wei kingdom. Now that Cao Zhen asked our aid and promises an alliance, we ought to accede to his request." Chelijai agreed that it was so, and he ordered his 2 chief ministers to raise an army of 250,000 of trained soldiers, archers, and crossbowmen, spearmen, and swordsmen, warriors who flung maces and hurled hammers. Beside these various weapons, the tribesmen used chariots covered with iron plates nailed on. They prepared much grain and fodder, and many spare weapons, all of which they loaded upon these iron-clad chariots. The chariots were drawn by camels or teams of horses. The carts or chariots were known as iron chariots. The 2 leaders took leave of their king and went straightway to Xiping Pass. The commander in charge of the pass, Han Zhen, at once sent intelligence to Zhu Zhiliang, who asked, "Who will go to attack the Kangs?" Guanzhong and Zhang Bao said they would go. Then Zhu Zhiliang said, "You shall be sent, but as you are ignorant of the road and the people, Ma Dai shall accompany you." To Ma Dai he said, "You know the disposition of the Kangs from your long residence there. You shall go as guide." They chose out 50,000 of veterans for the expedition. When they had marched a few days and drew near their enemy, Guanzhong went in advance with 100 horsemen and got first sight of them from a hill. The Kangs were marching, the long line of iron chariots, one behind another in close order. Then they halted and camped, their weapons piled all along the line of chariots like the ramparts of a moated city. Guanzhong studied them for a long time, quite at a loss to think how to overcome them. He came back to camp and consulted with his 2 colleagues. Ma Dai said, "We will see tomorrow what they will do when we make our array, and discuss our plans when we know more." So the next day they drew up their army in 3 divisions, Guanzhong's division being in the center, Zhang Bao's in the left, and Ma Dai's in the right. Thus they advanced. The enemy also drew up in battle order. Their chief leader, Yu Jai, had an iron mace in his hand, and a graven bow hung at his waist. He rode forward on a curveting steed boldly enough. Guanzhong gave the order for all 3 divisions to go forward. Then the enemy's ranks opened in the center, and out rolled the iron chariots like a great wave. At the same time the Kangs shot arrows and bolts, and the men of Shu could not stand against them. The winged divisions under Ma Dai and Zhang Bao retired, and the Kangs were thus enabled to surround the center. In spite of every effort, Guanzhong could not get free, for the iron chariots were like a city wall, and no opening could be found. The troops of Shu were absolutely helpless, and Guanzhong made for the mountains in hope of finding a road through. As it grew dark, a Kang leader with a black flag approached, his warriors like a swarm of wasps about him. Presently the leader cried out to him, "Youthful general, flee not. I am Yu Jai." But Guanzhong only hastened forward, plying his whip to urge his steed. Then he suddenly came on a deep gully, and there seemed nothing but to turn and fight. Yu Jai came close and struck at him with the mace. Guanzhong evaded the blow, but it fell upon his steed and knocked it over into water. Guanzhong went into the water too. Presently he heard a great noise again behind him. Yu Jai and his troops had found a way down into the gully and were coming at him down the stream. Guanzhong braced himself for a struggle in the water. Then he saw Zhang Bao and Ma Dai coming up on the bank, fighting with and driving off the Kangs. Yu Jai was struck by Zhang Bao, and he too fell into the gully. Guanzhong gripped his sword and was about to launch a stroke at Yu Jai as he came up, when Yu Jai jumped out of the water and ran away. At once Guanzhong caught the steed Yu Jai had left, led it up the bank, and soon had it ready to mount. Then he girded on his sword, got on the horse, and joined the battle with his colleagues. After driving off the Kangs, Guanzhong, Zhang Bao, and Ma Dai gathered together and rode back. They quickly gained the camp. "I do not know how to overcome these men," said Ma Dai. "Let me protect the camp while you go back and ask the Prime Minister what we should do." Guanzhong and Zhang Bao started at once and made the best of their way back. They told Zhu Jiang what had happened. He at once sent off Zhao Zilong and Wei Yan to go into ambush. After this he went himself with 30,000 troops and Zhang Wei, Zhang Yi, Guanzhong, and Zhang Bao, and soon came to Ma Dai's camp. The day after, from the summit of a hill, Zhu Jiang surveyed the country and the enemy, who were coming on in a ceaseless stream. "It is not difficult," said Zhu Jiang. He called up Ma Dai and Zhang Yi and gave them certain orders. They having gone, he turned to Zhang Wei, saying, "My friend, do you know how to overcome them? The enemy only depend upon force and courage. They shall not expect this fine strategy," was the reply. "You know," said Zhu Jiang, smiling, "those dark clouds and the strong north wind mean snow. Then I can do what I wish." The two leaders, Guanzhong and Zhang Bao, were sent into ambush, and Zhang Wei went out to offer battle. But he was to retire before the iron chariots. At the entrance to the camp were displayed many flags, but the soldiers that should serve under them were not there. It was now full winter, the 12th month, and the snow had come. The army of Shu went out to offer battle. When the iron chariots came forward, they retired, thus led the Kangs to the gate of the camp, Zhang Wei going to its rear. The Kangs came to the gate and stopped to look. They heard the strumming of a lute, but there were no soldiers there. The flags meant nothing. They told Yu Jai, and he suspected some ruse. Instead of entering, he went back to Prime Minister Yadan and told him. "It is a ruse," said Yadan. "Zhu Jiang's base trick is the pretense of a pretense, and you had better attack." So Yu Jai led his troops again to the camp gate. There he saw Zhu Jiang with a lute just getting into his chariot. With a small escort, he went toward the back of the camp. The tribesmen rushed into the camp and caught sight of the light chariot again just as it disappeared into a wood. Then said Yadan, "There may be an ambush, but I think we need not be afraid of these soldiers." Hence they decided to pursue. Ahead of them they saw the division under Zhang Wei hastening off through the snow. Yu Jai's rage boiled up at this sight, and he urged his men to go faster. The snow had filled in the roads among the hills, making every part look like a level plain. As they marched, one reported that some of the enemy were appearing from the rear of the hills. Some thought this meant an ambush, but Yadan said it did not matter, and they need not fear. He urged them to hasten. Shortly after this they heard a roaring as if the hills were rending asunder and the earth falling in, and the pursuers on foot fell one atop of the other into great pits that were invisible in the snow. The iron chariots, being close behind and hurrying along, could not stop, and they went into the pits also. Those still farther in the rear halted, but just as they were facing about, Guanzhong and Zhang Bao came up, one on either side, and attacked. Myriads of bolts flew through the air. Then 3 other divisions under Zhang Wei, Ma Dai, and Zhang Yi arrived, and confusion was worse than ever. The Kang leader, Yu Jai, fled to the rear, and was making for the mountains when he met Guanzhong, who slew him in the first encounter. Prime Minister Yadan was captured by Ma Dai and taken to the main camp. The soldiers scattered. Hearing of the capture of one leader, Zhu Jiang took his seat in his tent and bade them bring the prisoner. He told the guards to loose his bonds, and he had wine brought to refresh him, and soothed him with kindly words. Yadan was grateful for this kindness, and felt more so when Zhu Jiang said, "My master, the Emperor of the Great Han, sent me to destroy those who are in revolt. Why are you helping them? But I will release you, and you will return to your master and say that we are neighbors, and we will swear an oath of everlasting friendship. And tell him to listen no more to the words of those rebels." Yadan was released, and so were all the soldiers that had been captured, and all their stuff was given back to them. They left for their own country. The Kangs being thus disposed of, Zhu Jian quickly marched again to Kishan. He sent letters to capital Chengdu announcing his success. Meanwhile, Cao Zhen anxiously waited for news of his expected allies. Then a scout came in with the news that the army of Shu had broken camp and were marching away. "That is because the Kangs have attacked," said Duo Huai gleefully, and the two made ready to pursue. They saw ahead of them the army of Shu seemed to be in confusion. The van leader Cao Zhen led the pursuit. Suddenly, as he pressed on, there came a roll of drums followed by the appearance of a cohort led by Wei Yan, who cried, "Stop, you rebels!" But Cao Zhen did not obey the summons. He dashed forward to meet the attack. He was killed in the third encounter. His colleague Zhu Zan in similar fashion fell in with the cohort under Zhao Zilong, to whose long spear he soon fell victim. The loss of these two made Cao Zhen and Duo Huai hesitate, and they made to retire. But before they could face about, they heard the drums of an army in their rear, and Guanzhong and Zhang Bao came out and surrounded them. Cao Zhen and Duo Huai made a stand for a time, but were soon worsted and fled. The army of Shu pursued the beaten enemy to the bank of River Wai, where they took possession of the Wai camp. Cao Zhen was greatly chagrined at his defeat and sad at the loss of his generals. He sent a report of his misfortune to his master and asked for reinforcements. At the court of Wai, one of the ministers told the story, saying Cao Zhen has been defeated repeatedly, and his two van leaders were slain. Further, his Kang allies have suffered great loss. Cao Zhen is sending for help, and the case is very urgent. Cao Rui was alarmed and asked for someone to say how to drive off the victorious foe. Thereupon Hua Xin said, "It will be necessary for your majesty to go in person. You should call together all the nobles, and each will have to exert himself. Unless this is done, capital Chang'an will be lost and the whole land within the passes be in danger." But Imperial Guardian Zhang Yao opposed him. Said he, "The knowledge of every leader must exceed that of those led, then only will he be able to control them." Sun Zai, the strategist, sums it up very briefly: "Know the enemy, know thyself, and every battle is a victory." I know Cao Zhen has had great experience in the field, but he is no match for Zhu Jiang. Still there is such a match, and I will pledge my whole family that he will succeed. But your majesty may be unwilling to listen to me." The ruler of Wai replied, "You are a minister of high rank and old. If you know any wise person able to repel these soldiers of Shu, call him without delay and ease my mind." Then said Zhang Yao, "When Zhu Jiang decided to invade us, he was afraid of the one man I will name. Wherefore he spread calumnies concerning him, raising suspicion in your majesty's mind, that you might dismiss him. That done, Zhu Jiang invaded. Now employ this man again, and the enemy will retire." "Who is it?" asked the ruler of Wai. "I mean the imperial commander of the flying cavalry, Sima Yi." "I have long regretted my action," said Cao Rui. "Where now is friend Sima Yi? He is at the city of Wancheng idle." An edict was prepared recalling Sima Yi and restoring him to his rank and titles, and conferring upon him the new title Commander-in-Chief of the Western Forces and General who pacifies the West. All troops of Nanyang were set in motion, and Cao Rui led them to Chang'an. At the same time, Cao Rui ordered Sima Yi to be there to meet him on a certain day, and the orders were sent by a swift messenger to the city of Wancheng. At this time Zhu Jiang greatly rejoiced at the success he had had. He was at Tishan busy with plans for other victories when Lai Yan, who was in command at the Palace of Eternal Peace, sent his son Lai Teng to the camp. Zhu Jiang concluded that such a visit could only mean that Wu had invaded them, and he was in consequence cast down. However, he summoned Lai Teng to his tent, and when asked the object of his mission, Lai Teng replied that he had joyful news to impart. "What is your joyful news?" said Zhu Jiang. Formerly Meng Da deserted to Wai, but only because he could do nothing else. Cao Pai thought much of his capabilities, treated him most generously, kept him at his side, gave him titles of general, who establishes strong arms, and lord of Pinyin, and appointed him to the posts of governor of Xincheng and commander of Shangyang and Jincheng, and so on. But when Cao Pai died, all was changed. In Cao Rui's court were many who were jealous of Meng Da's influence and power, so that he enjoyed no peace. He used to talk about being originally one of the Shu leaders, and he was forced to do so and so. Lately he has sent several confidants with letters to my father asking that he would state his case to you as to the happenings. When the 5 armies came upon Shu, he wanted to rejoin the river lands. Now he is at Jincheng, and hearing you are attacking Wei, he proposes to lead the army of the 3 counties about Jincheng, Jincheng, and Shangyang to attack Luoyang while you attack Chang'an, whereby both capitals will be taken. I have brought with me his messenger and his letters. This was good news, and the bearer was fittingly rewarded. But at that moment came the news that Cao Rui was leading an army to Chang'an, and had recalled the banished Sima Yi to office. This piece of bad news saddened Zhu Zheng not a little. He told Ma Su, who said Cao Rui should not be your worry. If he goes to Chang'an, we will march there and capture him on the road, and there will be an end of him. Do you think I fear him? Said Zhu Zheng bitterly. But the recall of Sima Yi is another matter that troubles me, and Meng Da's proposal will avail nothing if he comes across this man. Meng Da is no match for him. He will be captured, and if he should be, the Middle Land will be hard to conquer. Why not put Meng Da on his guard then? Said Ma Su. Zhu Zheng decided to write, and the letter was dispatched immediately. Meng Da was then at Jincheng, anxiously expecting the return of his last confidential messenger, when one day the man returned and gave him this letter from Zhu Zheng himself. Your last letter has convinced me of your loyal rectitude, and I still remember with joy our old friendship. If your plan succeeds, you will certainly stand in the first rank of most worthy ministers. But I scarcely need impress upon you the extreme necessity for most perfect secrecy. Be very careful whom you trust. Fear everyone, guard against everyone. This news of the recall of Sima Yi and the proposed junction of armies at Chang'an is very serious. If a word reaches Sima Yi, he will come to you first. Therefore take every precaution, and do not regard this as a matter of unimportance. They say Zhu Zheng leaves nothing to chance, said Meng Da smiling as he read. This proves it. He lost no time in preparing a reply, which he sent also by a trusty messenger. This letter was like this. I acknowledge your most valuable advice, but is it possible that I should be remiss? For my part, I do not think the Sima Yi's affair need cause anxiety, for Wencheng is 300 miles from Luoyang and 400 miles from Jincheng. Should he hear anything, it would take a month to send a memorial to the capital and get a reply. My ramparts here are strong and my forces posted in the best positions. Let him come. I am not afraid of the result, so you, O Prime Minister, need feel no anxiety. You have only to wait for the good news of success. Zhu Zheng read the letter and threw it on the ground, stamping his foot with rage. Meng Da is a dead man, said he, a victim of Sima Yi. Why do you say that? Said Ma Su. What does the art of war say? Attack before the enemy is prepared, do what he does not expect. What is the use of reckoning upon a month's delay for sending up a memorial? Cao Rui's commission has already gone, and Sima Yi may strike whom he will. He will not have to wait to memorialize the throne. 10 days after he hears of Meng Da's defection, he will be upon Meng Da with an army, and Meng Da will be helpless. The others agreed. However, Zhu Zheng sent the messenger back again with a message. If the matter has not yet actually started, no other person is to be told of it. For if anyone knows, it shall certainly come to nothing. And the messenger left for Jincheng. In his idle retreat in Wencheng, Sima Yi had heard his master's ill success against the armies of Shu, and the news made him very sad. He lifted up his eyes and sighed. He had 2 sons, Sima Shi the elder and Sima Zhao, both clever and ambitious, and both earnest students of military books. One day they were present when their father seemed very cast down, and Sima Shi asked his father the reason. You would not understand, said the father. I think you are grieving because the ruler of Wei does not use you, replied Sima Shi. But they will send for you presently, said Sima Zhao. The prophecy was not long in fulfillment, for even then the bearer of the command stood at the gate, and the servant announced a messenger from the court bearing a commission. As soon as he heard its terms, Sima Yi set about ordering the armies of Wencheng. Soon came a messenger from Governor Shen Yi of Jincheng, with a secret message for Sima Yi. The messenger was taken into a private chamber, and his message was that Meng Da was on the point of rebellion. The leakage of this news was due to Luo Gu, a confidential subordinate of Meng Da, and Deng Xian, Meng Da's nephew. Luo Gu and Deng Xian went to confess the plot in exchange for a promise of amnesty. Sima Yi smote his forehead. This is the emperor's great good fortune, hides heaven itself. Zhu Zhiang's army is at Tishan already, and all people's courage is at the brink of breakdown. The emperor must go to Chang'an, and if he does not use me soon, Meng Da will carry out his plan. His plot will succeed, and both capitals will be lost. Meng Da is surely in league with Zhu Zhiang, and if I can seize this Meng Da before he makes any move, that will damp Zhu Zhiang's spirits, and he will retreat. His elder son Sima, she remarked, it is necessary to memorialize the throne. No, replied his father, that would take a month, and delay would mean failure. Sima Yi gave orders to prepare to advance by double rapid marches and threatened death to all loiterers. In order to avert suspicion, he sent letters to Meng Da by the hand of military advisor Liang Jai to tell Meng Da to prepare to join the western expedition. Sima Yi quickly followed Liang Jai. After 2 days' march, Sima Yi fell in with an army of General Zhu Huan over the hills. Zhu Huan got an interview with Sima Yi, and he said the emperor has arrived at Chang'an to lead an expedition against Shu. Whither is the commander-in-chief going? Sima Yi, in a low voice, said to him, Meng Da is on the verge of rebellion, and I am going to seize him. Let me go as your van leader, said Zhu Huan. So Zhu Huan's troops were joined to the expedition and marched in the van. Sima Yi commanded the center, and his sons brought up the rear. 2 days farther on, some of the scouts captured Meng Da's confidential messenger, and with him Zhu Zhiang's reply. Sima Yi said to the man, I will let you live if you tell all you know. So the messenger told all about the letters and messages he had taken from one to the other. When Sima Yi read, he remarked, all able people think the same way. Our plan would have been foiled by Zhu Zhiang's cleverness unless, by the good luck of the emperor, this messenger had been captured. Now Meng Da will be helpless. The army pressed on still more rapidly. Meng Da had arranged for his stroke with Governor Shen Yi of Jincheng and Governor Shen Dan of Shenyang, and was awaiting the day he had fixed. But Shen Yi and Shen Dan were only pretending to abet him, although they went on training and drilling their troops to keep up appearances till the soldiers of Wei could arrive. To Meng Da they pretended delay in their transport as the reason for being unable to start, and he believed them. Just then Liang Jai came, and when he had been ceremoniously received, he produced the order from Sima Yi and said, The commander-in-chief has received the edict of the emperor to call in all the forces in this area, and he has sent me to direct you to hold your troops in readiness to march. On what day does the commander-in-chief start? Asked Meng Da. He is just about starting now, and is on the way to Chang'an, replied Liang Jai. Meng Da smiled inwardly, for this being so, he saw success before him. He gave a banquet to Liang Jai. Meng Da sent to his fellow conspirator Shen Yi and Shen Dan to say the first step must be taken next day by exchanging the banners of Wei for those of Han and marching to attack Luoying. Then the watchmen reported a great cloud of dust in the distance, as though an army was coming. Meng Da was surprised and went up on the ramparts to see for himself. Soon he made out the banner of Zhu Huan leading. He ran down from the wall and in a state of trepidation ordered the raising of the drawbridge. Zhu Huan still came on and in due time stood on the bank of the moat. Then Zhu Huan called out, Let the traitor Meng Da yield quickly. Meng Da in a rage opened upon him with arrows, and Zhu Huan was wounded in the forehead. He was helped to a place of safety, while the arrows flew down in great numbers. When the soldiers of Wei retired, Meng Da opened the gates and went in pursuit. But the whole of Sima Yi's army soon came up, and the banners stood so thick that they hid the sun. This is what Zhu Zhiang foresaw, said Meng Da despairingly. The gates were closed and barred. Meanwhile the wounded general Zhu Huang had been borne to his tent, where the arrow-head was extracted and the physician attended to him. But the night he died, he was 59. His body was sent to Luoying for burial. Next day, when Meng Da went up on the wall, he saw the city was entirely surrounded as with a girdle of iron. He was greatly perturbed and could not decide what to do. Presently he saw two bodies of troops coming up, their banners bearing the names of his fellow conspirators Shen Yi and Shen Dan. He could only conclude that they had come to his help, so he opened the gates to them and went out to join them in the fight. "Rebels, stay!" cried they both as they came up. Realizing that they had been false, he turned and galloped toward the city, but a flight of arrows met him, and the two who had betrayed him, Lai Gu and Deng Xian, began to revile him. "We have already yielded the city," they cried. Then Meng Da fled. But he was pursued, and as he and his horse were both exhausted, he was speedily overtaken and slain. They exposed his head, and his soldiers submitted. Sima Yi was welcomed at the open gates. The people were pacified, the soldiers were rewarded, and this done, a report of their success was sent to Cao Rui. Cao Rui ordered the body of Meng Da to be exposed in the marketplace of Luoyang, and he promoted Shen Yi and Shen Dan and gave them posts in the army of Sima Yi. He gave Lai Gu and Deng Xian command of the cities of Xincheng and Shangyang. Then Sima Yi marched to Chang'an and camped. The leader entered the city to have audience with his master, by whom he was most graciously received. "Once I doubted you," said Cao Rui, "but then I did not understand, and I listened to mischief-makers. I regret it. Had you not suppressed Meng Da, both capitals would have gone wrong." Sima Yi replied, "Shen Yi gave the information of the intended revolt, and thought to memorialize your majesty. But there would have been a long delay, and so I did not await orders, but set forth at once. Delay would have played into Zhu Zhiang's hands." Then Sima Yi handed in Zhu Zhiang's letter to Meng Da. When the emperor had read that, he said, "You are wiser than both the great strategists of old ROTK and Sun Zai." The ruler of Wei conferred upon the successful leader a pair of golden axes, and the privilege of taking action in important matters without first obtaining his master's sanction. Then Sima Yi was ordered to lead the army to the pass against the enemy. Sima Yi said, "May I name the leader of the van? Whom do you nominate?" "Zhang He, general of the right army, can shoulder this task." "Just the man I wish to send," said Cao Rui, smiling, and Zhang He was appointed. Sima Yi took his army off Chang'an and marched it to the camp of the Shu army. By strategy the leader shows his skill. He needs bold fighting men to work his will. The result of the campaign will appear in the next chapter.